So I was saying that I always tell this story about Harlem in the 80s. I was coming up to, I'd go into a jazz club and tradition, then go to an after hour spot, then you go eat. And right then it's a Sunday morning when the dawn was coming up. Actually, dawn had been up for a minute or whatever. And then we're coming out, I'm in a cab, I'm coming up a hill on the way to go get the chicken and waffles. Of course, you always had the chicken and waffles. There's literally, it's like so early in the morning. It's before the church people have even come. And we're coming down the street, and it's like a beautiful spring morning, right? And as the cab makes a turn and comes up this block, going up this hill, I look way down the hill, there's an orange. Looks like, I don't know, there's like orange everywhere. Orange, something like it snowed orange. And as the cab goes into the past these orange things, I realize that the street from one end of the block, a city block long from one end to the other, is littered with empty crack vials with orange tops from wine line from one end of a city block to the other on both sides of the street. Okay? Now, whether there was a raid or there was not or whatever, then we get to the end of the corner before we get ready to, before we get out of the cab, someone flies out or runs into the cab. There was something out of like a horror story. And then, you know, but I'll never forget that. But one more thing about that time. At that time also, because I would just to tell you how intense by the height was of the epidemic back then in the 80s. There was, when I was living in Harlem on 149th Street, 146th Street, 146th Street, 146th Street, when I was living on Amsterdam 146, there was a building that you would, between that and like 100 near Small's Paradise, because that's where the poets and artists and everything, so much history going on there. But that's when it was still open. Between where I lived and Small's Paradise, there was a block, a whole block. Getting back to the block there, that stank. You had to cross the street to get around the block. And my nephew, we were walking one day and we had to cross the street, and when we first noticed the smell, my nephew said, "Oh, it smells like Harlem death." And he was just like 8 years old. Sure enough, in the papers, it came out. They found it was a building full of dead people. They pulled over like several hundred bodies, dead bodies, over several hundred dead bodies out of a building that had been in there that had died from the epidemic.